Is Claire Whitmore. I'm 26. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What happens when the man you ignore on the street holds the key to your family's darkest secret? The morning air was damp, the city buzzing with traffic, but his grip on my wrist was ice. His beard was matted, his clothes torn, but his eyes, sharp, unblinking, alive. "Don't step inside that house," he rasped. "It'll cost you everything." I pulled free, heart pounding, and hurried to my car. The leather seat felt cold against my back as I tried to laugh it off. A homeless man. A random morning. Coincidence, surely. But the words clung to me like smoke as I drove through winding country roads toward my grandfather's estate. The Whitmore mansion loomed ahead, all stone and shadow, where secrets felt stitched into every brick. Today, the family would gather to divide his empire. The lakeside properties, the businesses, the millions no one ever spoke of, but everyone craved. Inside, cousins whispered, lawyers shuffled papers, my parents sat stiff-backed at the front. Their eyes flicked to me, then away, like I was just another pawn in a game I hadn't agreed to play. Then the doors creaked open. Footsteps echoed, and someone stepped in behind me.
The room gasped.
My mother's face drained of color. My father's hands gripped the armrests until his knuckles whitened. They looked less like heirs waiting for fortune and more like criminals staring at a ghost. I turned slowly, pulse hammering. And in that moment, I realized the warning hadn't been madness. It had been prophecy. The room seemed to hold its breath. Papers fluttered in the lawyer's hands, but no one dared move. My parents' eyes were locked on the figure behind me, their faces pale, their lips trembling as if the past had just walked back into the room. I turned, and my breath caught. The man who entered wasn't dressed in rags now. His hair was neatly combed, his coat tailored though worn at the edges. But I knew those eyes. The same piercing stare from the roadside. The so-called homeless man who had grabbed my wrist. Only now he didn't look broken. He looked purposeful. "Who is this?" I whispered. My father's voice cracked. "It can't be, you're dead." Dead? My skin prickled with cold. The man stepped forward, his boots echoing on the marble floor.
"No, Robert."
"Not dead. Just erased." His voice was steady, calm, yet it cut sharper than any blade. Whispers rippled among my cousins, confusion rising. The lawyer cleared his throat, uneasy. "Mr. Whitmore instructed me to begin only once all named parties were present. And it appears we are." My mother's hand gripped my arm, nails digging in. "Claire, don't listen to him. He's dangerous." But dangerous wasn't what I saw. I saw clarity, truth burning behind those weary eyes. The kind of truth that could shatter an empire. The man's gaze swept the room, finally landing on me. "Your grandfather wanted me here. He knew the lies this family buried. And he knew only I could unearth them." Silence hung heavy. My father's forehead glistened with sweat. My mother's lips trembled, forming words she couldn't force out. I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. "Who are you?" He didn't flinch, didn't blink. "I'm the son your grandfather never told you about. The first heir. The rightful one." Gasps broke out. The room fractured into whispers and stares. My parents looked like they'd been struck by lightning. And I stood between two worlds, my blood frozen, realizing the warning hadn't been for nothing. It had been a doorway, and now it had opened. The chaos erupted. My cousins leaned in, whispering furiously, eyes darting between the stranger and my parents. The lawyer's pen slipped from his hand, clattering to the polished oak table. My father finally found his voice, though it cracked under the weight of panic. "This is absurd. My father had no other son. This man is an imposter, nothing more." But the stranger smiled faintly, the kind of smile that said you can't outrun the truth forever. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small leather-bound journal. Its edges were frayed, the pages yellowed with time. He set it on the table with deliberate care. "This was your father's," he said evenly. "His handwriting. His confessions. Every transfer, every letter he sent to my mother. And every promise he made to me. Gasps rippled again. The lawyer picked up the book, flipping through its pages, his brow furrowing deeper with each line he read. Finally, he looked up at my father, then at my mother. This appears authentic. These are indeed Mr. Whitmore's records. My mother's face twisted, half fear, half fury. Forgery. Clever forgery. Don't be taken in, Claire. But my father couldn't meet my eyes. His silence screamed louder than her denial. I stared at him, my chest tightening. Dad, is it true? His jaw clenched. His shoulders sagged. For the first time in my life, Robert Whitmore looked less like a man of power and more like a child cornered in his own lies. The stranger's gaze shifted to me, softer now. Your grandfather loved you. He wanted you to know the truth, that the fortune you're here to inherit was built on silence and betrayal. He left me with the choice: expose it or let the cycle repeat. The room went still. I could feel every eye on me, waiting, judging, wondering which way I would turn. And in that stillness, the weight of legacy pressed down like iron. A hidden brother, a fortune tainted by secrets, parents unraveling before my eyes. I had come for a will reading. Instead, I had walked into a reckoning. The lawyer cleared his throat, his voice unsteady. According to Mr. Whitmore's final instructions, all heirs must be acknowledged before the estate can be divided. If this man is who he claims, then... My father slammed his hand on the table, rattling the glasses. Enough. This stray doesn't belong here. He's nothing. He's trying to steal what's ours. The stranger didn't flinch. He simply opened the journal to a page marked with a ribbon and slid it across the table. Read this aloud, he said. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, his eyes scanning the neat, slanted handwriting. His voice dropped into the solemn cadence of truth. To my firstborn son, Samuel, though the world does not know you, I see you. I regret the years I left you in shadow. One day, I hope the family that denied you will have no choice but to face you. When that day comes, this journal will speak where I could not. The words landed like a stone in a still pond, rippling through every corner of the room. Samuel, the man's name, my grandfather's secret, my family's shame. My mother's breath came in shallow gasps. She clutched my father's arm, but he pulled away, his face collapsing under the weight of exposure. My cousins muttered nervously, some wide-eyed, others suspicious, all of them shaken. And me? My pulse thundered in my ears. My world tilted. All my life, I had been told our family was built on honor, tradition, respectability. But here was the truth. It was built on erasure. Samuel's gaze caught mine. Claire, you deserve to know where you come from. The empire your parents promised you wasn't theirs to give. It was stolen.
Hidden.
Buried. I wanted to deny it. To protect the fragile image of the family I thought I knew. But deep inside, I saw the cracks. The way Dad avoided the lawyer's eyes. The way Mom's voice broke when she screamed. Lies only shatter one way. Loudly. And today, they were shattering in front of everyone. The air inside the mansion thickened, as though the walls themselves were listening. Samuel stood taller now, not the ragged figure who had stopped me in the street, but a man stepping back into the place he'd been denied. He placed a folded letter beside the journal. This is dated 2 weeks before your grandfather passed. His signature is notarized. He wanted me here. The lawyer read it silently, then nodded with grim certainty. It's valid. Mr. Whitmore explicitly named Samuel as his eldest son and heir. By law, his claim must be considered equal. Gasps cut through the room. My father buried his face in his hands. My mother whispered, "No, this can't be happening." I sat frozen, my heart hammering. Equal heir? That meant everything I thought was destined for me, for my parents, for my brother, was no longer certain. My cousins erupted into whispers. We'll lose everything. He'll take it all. How did they keep him secret? Samuel's voice rose above the noise, calm but firm. I don't want revenge. I want recognition. I want the truth spoken aloud after a lifetime of silence. He turned to me then, and his gaze softened. Claire, You deserve to inherit without lies tainting it. But your parents built their power by denying me. You have to decide, stand with the truth or keep living their fiction. The room stilled. Every eye shifted to me. I saw my mother shaking her head violently, her lips mouthing, "Don't you dare." My father's eyes begged silently for loyalty. The cousins waited hungrily, watching me like vultures circling a battlefield. My throat tightened. I thought of the homeless man who'd grabbed my wrist, his warning seared into my bones. If you value your life, don't step inside. Now I understood. It wasn't just about wealth. It was about survival, of integrity, of truth, of bloodlines twisted into chains. I drew a shaky breath. If Grandpa wanted you here, Samuel, then you belong here. No one can erase that. The words hung heavy. My parents gasped, collapsing into their chairs as though my voice had cracked the last defense they had. And deep inside, I felt the shift. This wasn't just his reckoning. It was mine. The lawyer's pen scratched across the paper, recording every word, every acknowledgement. My parents sat in stunned silence, their empire of denial crumbling with each stroke of ink. Samuel stood beside me now, steady and unflinching. "Robert," he said, his voice directed at my father, "you always told people you were the only son. But deep down you knew the truth. You buried me because I didn't fit your image. But I'm here now, and the world knows." Dad's face reddened, veins straining at his temples. "You don't know what it was like. He left us scraps. He loved your mother more than mine. We had to survive." Samuel's expression didn't waver. "You survived by erasing me. But survival built on lies rots from within." The room went silent again. My mother dabbed at her eyes, though no tears fell. Her voice cracked. "Claire, please don't side with him. We're your family. Everything we've done was for you." I felt a hollow laugh rise in my throat. For me? They had done it for themselves, for control, for power. And all along, they demanded my loyalty while hiding the fractures beneath the surface. I turned to the lawyer. "What happens now?" He cleared his throat. "By law, the estate will be divided among all acknowledged heirs. That includes Samuel. Unless anyone contests with proof, his claim stands." The cousins erupted in protests, their voices rising like a storm. But I didn't flinch. For the first time, I wasn't drowning in their noise. I was standing above it. Samuel leaned closer, his voice low enough only I could hear. "Your grandfather trusted you to see what they refused to. He knew you would be strong enough to face it." The words pierced deeper than any inheritance could. It wasn't about money. It was about truth carved into the open, impossible to bury again. My parents looked shattered, their power dissolving before my eyes. And for the first time, I didn't feel like their obedient daughter. I felt like the heir of something far greater, the truth itself. The will reading continued, but the words felt secondary to the storm unraveling around me. The lawyer's voice echoed. "Properties, holdings, and accounts shall be divided." Each phrase cracked another piece of my parents' armor. My cousin sat rigid, eyes darting between Samuel and me, whispering like spectators at a trial. Some glared at him with open resentment, others with wary curiosity. But all of them avoided my gaze, because I had chosen truth, and truth frightened them. Mom finally broke the silence, her voice trembling. "Claire, you don't understand. If you let him in, we lose everything. The homes, the businesses, the future we planned." I cut her off, my tone sharper than I intended. "Planned for who? For me? Or for the image you wanted the world to see?" Her mouth opened, but no words came. Dad shifted uncomfortably, his hands clawing at the armrests as though he could hold on to a crumbling throne. Samuel, calm as stone, placed a hand on the journal. "This isn't about tearing anyone down. It's about being seen, about existing." The lawyer nodded solemnly. "And by law, his existence cannot be denied any longer." My parents looked at me then, desperation pooling in their eyes. As if I could undo this with a single word. As if betraying truth could glue their empire back together. But I was done being their silent accomplice. I lifted my chin, my voice steady. Samuel belongs here. Grandpa wanted it. The documents prove it. And whether you collapse under it or not, I won't pretend he doesn't exist. The words landed like a gavel. My father's shoulders sagged, his fight drained. My mother turned away, staring blankly at the wall. The cousins whispered louder, realizing the tide had shifted. Samuel's gaze met mine. For the first time, gratitude softened his hardened features. "Thank you," he whispered. And in that moment, I felt something new. Not fear, not betrayal, but release. The chains of silence my parents wrapped around me had snapped. But as the session drew to a close, I knew the hardest part was still ahead. Because some families don't forgive exposure. They plot revenge. When the will reading ended, the family splintered like glass under pressure. My cousins scattered with hushed voices, some throwing daggers at me with their eyes, others pretending not to see me at all. My parents remained slumped in their chairs, hollowed out, their empire of denial reduced to rubble. Samuel closed the journal, tucking it back into his coat with a reverence that felt like closure. He turned to me, his voice low. "You don't know how much courage it took to stand against them. Your grandfather believed in you, for a reason."
For the first time that day, I smiled.
Not wide, not triumphant, but steady. "This wasn't about inheritance," I said. "It was about ending the silence." We stepped outside together. The cold air rushed against my face, sharp and clean, as though the mansion itself had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. The sun was slipping behind the trees, painting the sky in gold and crimson. For the first time, the estate didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like freedom. As we reached the gates, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "You've destroyed this family. We'll never forgive you." I stared at it, then slid the phone back into my pocket. Forgiveness wasn't mine to beg for. It was theirs to wrestle with. My only duty was to the truth. Samuel paused at the gate, his eyes scanning the horizon like a man who had finally stepped out of shadow. "He left us both a legacy, Claire. Not the wealth, not the property, but the courage to choose truth over comfort." I nodded, feeling the weight lift from my chest. Behind us, the mansion loomed, a monument to lies now cracked open. Ahead of us stretched a road I had never dared to walk until now. I didn't know where it led, but I knew one thing. I was no longer walking it alone. And as the evening wind carried away the echoes of my parents' denial, I felt a clarity so sharp it was almost holy. The truth had cost me a family, but it had given me myself.